Every time that sound echoes through a cell block, someone gets paid. Not the guard, not the inmate, but someone sitting in a corner office, hundreds of miles away. A politician's friend, a lobbyist, a corporate board member. And the more cells they fill, the bigger the check. This is the untold story of how America, and much of the world, turned incarceration into an industry, and how politicians quietly profited from keeping it that way. They call it corrections, but behind that word is a system designed not to correct, but to collect. In 2019, while lawmakers debated criminal justice reform, private prison companies spent over $4 million lobbying those same lawmakers. The message was simple: keep the beds full, keep the contracts coming. And if you play ball, there's something in it for you. A Republican governor in the South signs a bill expanding mandatory minimum sentences. The next month, his campaign receives a six-figure donation from a private prison PAC. A Democrat in the Midwest pushes for tougher probation violations. His wife's consulting firm lands a contract with a company that runs half the state's facilities. Different parties, same pipeline. Punishment pays, if you're on the right side of the bars. To understand how we got here, you need to see the shift. It didn't start with greed, it started with a promise. Back in the 1980s, prisons were overflowing. Governments said they couldn't handle the cost. Enter the private solution. Companies would build and run facilities cheaper and more efficiently. The state would pay per inmate per day. Problem solved, on paper. But that deal planted a seed, one that would grow into a multi-billion-dollar industry with a single rule: the only way to increase profits is to increase prisoners. Policies were crafted not to reduce crime, but to maintain occupancy. Mandatory minimums, 3 strikes laws, zero tolerance, all marketed as tough on crime, but in reality they were tough on taxpayers and profitable for investors. By the 2000s, private prisons were hosting lobby retreats, weekends of golf and fine dining with the very lawmakers who decided their budgets. One company even drafted model legislation that later became state law, laws that increased detention times for immigrants and low-level offenders. Every extra day inside meant millions in revenue. It's a cycle built on paperwork, politics, and pain. The longer you're in, the more they earn. And the system makes sure you never get out clean. Somewhere in downtown Washington, a man in a tailored suit slides a folder across a polished mahogany table. Inside, a legislative draft. On the cover, Proposed State Correctional Partnership Act. It's not written by a senator, not by a policy aide. It's written by a lobbyist for a private prison corporation. He smiles. Because once this bill passes, it'll guarantee a steady stream of prisoners for the next decade, and millions in contracts for his company. This isn't fiction. It happened in state after state: Tennessee, Arizona, Florida. Each one signed deals that promised occupancy rates of 90% or higher. Meaning, even if crime went down, the taxpayers still had to pay for empty beds. To understand how powerful this machine is, follow the money. The 2 largest private prison companies in the US, CoreCivic and GEO Group, are publicly traded. They're not just companies, they're investment portfolios. Their success depends not on safer streets, but on filled cells. Every arrest, every conviction, every extra day of detention is a number on a spreadsheet that determines next quarter's earnings. They file reports like any business. Revenue growth tied to increased immigration detention. Projected occupancy stabilized. Only here, stabilized means thousands of human beings behind bars. Here's how the loop works. Private prison companies donate to political campaigns. Politicians pass laws that increase incarceration. Those laws create more demand for prisons. The prisons generate profit, and some of that profit cycles right back into campaign donations. In 2018 alone, The GEO Group gave over $1.7 million in political contributions and spent more than $3 million on lobbying. And that's just what's on paper. Behind closed doors, there are fundraisers, private dinners, and soft money channels that never see daylight. One executive was recorded saying, "We're not in the incarceration business, we're in the real estate business. But the real estate just happens to have bars on the windows." Every time reform gains traction, the industry fights back. When states talk about reducing mandatory minimums or closing prisons, the lobbyists move fast. They warn lawmakers of job losses and public safety risks. They fund studies to show that private facilities are cheaper, even when they aren't. In 2016, the U.S. Department of Justice announced plans to phase out federal private prisons after discovering higher rates of violence and poor conditions. But less than a year later, after a change in administration, the decision was reversed. Private prison stocks soared 100% in a single week. Policy didn't change because of safety. It changed because someone's portfolio needed it to. While politicians debate profit margins, people like Darius Cole live the consequences. Sentenced for a non-violent drug offense, he served 8 years in a privately run facility. When he got sick, medical help took weeks. The staff was undertrained, underpaid, and overworked, because every dollar spent on him was a dollar less in profit. His mother wrote letters, not to the warden, but to the state representative who approved the contract. She never got a reply. Her son came home weighing 40 pounds less than when he entered. And when she asked for answers, the company said, "We met contractual standards." Contracts don't feel pain. People do. When journalists tried to follow the money, they discovered something even darker. Many of the same politicians who voted to expand prison funding also owned shares in the companies getting those contracts. Some held them directly. Others hid them inside blind trusts, mutual funds, or shell corporations registered offshore. Their names were removed, but the profits still came through. One senator publicly claimed to oppose mass incarceration, but leaked filings showed his family trust earned nearly $500,000 from a private prison real estate fund. He never disclosed it. He never had to. It's not corruption in the old sense. It's legalized influence, built right into the system. In 2020, a former private prison accountant turned whistleblower released hundreds of internal memos. They revealed bonuses tied to average inmate days, a metric that literally rewarded staff for keeping people locked up longer. He said, "They told us if the average daily population drops below target, corporate loses funding, so we made sure it didn't drop." He shared emails from executives discussing forecast occupancy, the same way airlines discuss ticket sales. One message read, "If the new sentencing bill passes, it could negatively impact our Q3 margins. We need to intervene." That word, intervene, meant lobby harder, buy more influence, keep the machine running. The business model didn't stop in America. Across the Atlantic, companies built on the same blueprint are running immigrant detention centers in the UK and Australia. Their executives, often the same, sit on overlapping boards. From London to Texas, the formula repeats: outsource incarceration, guarantee occupancy, reward investors, silence the reformers. Even in countries where crime has dropped, incarceration stays profitable because the contracts demand it. The system isn't faceless. It's millions of stories, mothers, sons, fathers, and children caught in a spreadsheet economy. Every dollar of profit is measured in years stolen from someone's life. Politicians tell us they're protecting society, but the truth is, they're protecting an industry that thrives on pain, paperwork, and silence. For years, the public didn't see it. Now the evidence is impossible to ignore. Private prison CEOs don't need to convince us crime is rising. They just need to convince our leaders that it might. And as long as fear wins votes, prison stocks will keep climbing. But here's the truth they'll never admit. Crime isn't their enemy. Reform is. If incarceration is business, then freedom is bad for business. It's time to look beyond the slogans, the campaign speeches, the promises, because every cell, every sentence, every law passed in the name of justice has someone cashing in behind it. Until we demand transparency, freedom will always come with a price tag.